Hello there and welcome back to another Fairytale Fables video, and today I'm going to be playing Joan of Arc, which is a character that I don't typically play all that often, hardly at all actually, and it's not necessarily because she's bad per se. I think she's just kind of an uninteresting hero, I suppose. She gives you stats for buying characters of the same level, so every other character that you buy is going to give you a little burst of stats for two other characters of the same level. And it's definitely not bad. It's pretty solid if you're playing something like Romeo or Juliet, or I mean, even just for getting some general tempo, it's not too bad, but it's just you're not generally gonna see a lot of the really crazy stuff that you might see with, like, I don't know, Sinbad or Fisher King or Fortuna, or any of a number of other heroes. But we start this off with just grabbing up an archer, and I think that's one of the better buys because you're only getting 1 extra health per unit in the early game and at level 1, so ranged character is just going to use that extra attack a lot better than pretty much anything else. And we actually managed to tie this thanks in part to that extra attack that we got there. And I'm gonna go ahead and do something I normally don't do, which is triple a character right off the bat, especially one that doesn't get significantly stronger here. And I'm mostly gonna do that because I've got that shield page in the shop up there. I'm gonna probably just immediately grab up that shield page right after this, and having a ranged unit with a lot of attack, I'm gonna be one-shotting everything, and I'm also gonna be able to survive a whole bunch of stuff. I think it's just, pretty solid, and we'll even bank a shield for later use. So I'm feeling fairly decent going into this next fight. Unfortunately, we get punished pretty hard, although to be fair, I don't think that we would have been winning that fight regardless. And it's a pretty easy Romeo pickup here. The reason you have to pick up Romeo first there is because he uses the bonus stats so much better than the Hamlet, or not Hamlet, the Hansel. So he just uses those stats so much better. So you get the extra stats on the Romeo, and then later on, maybe you get more Juliets, and we get another Romeo, and we can just start kind of dogpiling a whole bunch of stats onto these Romeos, so that assuming we can pick up a Juliet, which we do, we're just gonna be able to easily get through the early game. And I'm not gonna bother holding for the shield page triple. I just don't think it's really all that worth it. We're still losing health, and an upgraded shield page is not likely to really help us there. We do end up make a wish. I forget what that's exactly called, but we make a wish into a demon, which is amazing. We're only going to keep it for 1 turn, but we're definitely going to take advantage of it to help us win this fight, and it's only going to be assisted by the fact that we also got an Ares helmet, which I think is a really solid tempo treasure. Yeah, and we're going to use it to just barely sneak a win out here, and now we're just looking for Juliets. I think maybe picking up this crab would have been a good play. I think maybe I I kind of tunnel visioned a little bit too hard on just looking for the Juliet, because our board is not super strong, and I don't know if I should be doing greedy stuff like I just did, where I took the 3-cost unit just so that I could get the extra stats onto my Romeo. I think it would have been better to just, even if you have to sacrifice some of the stats, you can get a stronger board, because yeah, if we'd gotten those crabs, we probably would have won the fight. But we pick up what is that, a fairy, good fairy, something like that, radiant fairy. We pick up a radiant fairy and finally get our Juliet. So now we're looking really good, because the Romeo, the Juliet, and the fairy, all of those units, they use bonus stats really well, and we can use them pretty late into the game. So I think at this point we're starting to look really strong. We've got an upgraded Romeo on the Ares helmet. We've got a Radiant Fairy that's going to be scaling, but we still end up actually losing a fight. So yeah, we're definitely kind of in a rough spot at this point. We need to make sure that we're winning every fight. And fortunately, we're up against the ghost, but we're definitely gonna have to play things much more cautiously from here on out. And we're gonna kind of shuffle our board around, see if we can figure out the best way for us to utilize the stats from Sinbad and then summoning in the Radiant Fairy. But I think you can kind of see a little bit of, you know, how nervous I am at this point, because I'm actually gonna end up selling down and rolling again. We end up hitting another Radiant Fairy, which is really, really good, but we just really can't afford to lose any more fights. And the fact that we picked up another Romeo and a Juliet means that I don't think that we are. This many Romeos and Juliets at this point of the game is just, it's really, really hard for other comps to beat this unless they get the exact right kill order. And in this case, I mean, it's very unlikely that we go through our entire front line before Romeo dies. So yeah, we're at this point we can kind of rest a little bit more easily. You know, unless somebody gets some sort of really bad fireball or something like that, it's going to be hard to beat us. And yeah, we win this fight pretty easily. So yeah, we're just going to try and get to level 6 with as many Romeos and Juliets as we can and just kind of see what we end up with. I think Hero Mask is pretty easy here. The choice of the hero is not so easy. I mean, Sundiata's a really good one, Aladdin's a really good one, but I actually end up going with Treasure Hamster, which is also a good choice. But a big part of why I chose that over something like Aladdin was actually just because it gives you plus 3 HP. And as low as we are at this point in the game, I like a little bit of extra safety. It makes me feel a lot more comfortable. Like I'm even gonna sell down and put a little bit more HP on this Juliet, just because we're going against a guy with a flying character in this next round. So we're still big enough to win, but you know, it's not like we're winning these without any competition. But we're gonna get elemental swords, which is really, really solid, especially with all those Romeo and Juliet's dying breaths kind of, you know, tossing those elemental sword HP back and forth. And I briefly considered actually just destroying the Frankenstein to get a little more HP, but I decided it's just better to roll and see what we can get. And I end up actually True Love's Kissing into a good boy with 1711, which is just really, really, really good. And we're even gonna hold for another Juliet here. So yeah, we somehow just lucked into a really, really crazy good board. So we head into the next fight against a definitely non-trivial demon board, and yeah, we still just easily win this fight due to our raw stats alone. And both of our level 5 treasures, Cat Alter's not good, Celestial Harp would be decent, but we're playing Romeo and Juliet, so we're just never gonna have it active. So it's just, I don't think it's really worth for us to run. So we're actually just gonna take the level 4 treasure and move on from there. And we get what looks to be a really, really solid into a potential food board, which I think is a really solid way to pivot out of a Romeo and Juliet comp. So we're gonna give that a try. We're gonna pick up the Haymaker and the Herding Dog, and we're gonna see if we can transition into food. And we're gonna go into the next fight feeling fairly confident that our stats are gonna be enough to carry us through it, but we actually end up going into a board with a shielded spider. I forget exactly what it's called, but we actually end up losing, and we end up with 3 HP. So that treasure hamster that we got it actually saved us from dying there. And we're able to switch up into a Hercules, which doubles and then doubles again all of our stats. So we've got a 6453 good boy now. So our board just went from being pretty solid to honestly insane at this point. We've got just so many raw stats on our board and so many dying breath that we're definitely feeling pretty confident going into this next fight. And yeah, this guy just can't even slay against us. And this is kind of where the gears start turning. We've got so many dying breath characters, and we just got a hero swap, And we know by now that one of the conditions for getting Anubis, which is the Dying Breath secret hero, is to get Savitiri and then hero swap out of her. So yeah, we've got the first step for that, and we've got a lot of Dying Breath, so we're definitely gonna want to try and maneuver our way into getting that Anubis, because if we can pull off Anubis with a board like this, I mean, well, there's just no telling what sort of diabolical comps that we could possibly come up with. But for now, we've got to play this out, and now that we've swapped into Savitiri, we've got kind of a little bit of leeway. We've got only 6 health, but we do have that extra death token, so we're pretty free to kind of do whatever we want. And by whatever we want, I mean not necessarily that we can do anything, but we do have the ability to grab it. So we've got the Anubis, and now I really feel like winning is kind of a foregone conclusion. So now we've just got to see in what fashion we can win this game, and I think we figured out what we're gonna do. We're gonna go ahead and lock this wolf, because wolf is a dying breath, and our dying breaths are doubled, so I think the obvious decision is we're gonna put our good boy in a wolf, and we're gonna roll down and see what else we can find. And we roll down looking for something, anything. Doesn't look like we need the chair, but we get a dying breath rune, and that gives me an incredibly good idea. So we're gonna go ahead and sell down for it. We're gonna stick it on our wolf, and we're gonna see what we can do with this. So I do something here that's not actually ideal, but I wasn't sure if the Dying Breath token and Anubis combination would be multiplicative. I kind of assumed it'd be additive, because that's how pretty much everything else is in this game. But I wanted to just give it a check, and so I left it in there, and yeah, it turns out that it's additive. We just get 3 good boys instead of 4, which, you know, is plenty. So we're gonna go ahead and take this triple, although none of these are really all that crazy interesting. It's, you know, there's only 1 turn left for Piece of Infinity, so it's probably not even better than pretty much anything that we have. And yeah, we're just gonna roll down and see what else we can run into, although, you know, outside of maybe getting some ranged units in the back, I don't think there's too much more that we really care to do. That Merlin would probably be pretty decent, so we're gonna get some HP for the road, lock for the Merlin, because, you know, why not, just in case we just happen to lose. And or I guess we don't lock, but it doesn't matter, because we're going into this fight, and you can scam 1 good boy, but when we have 3 gigantic good boys and a 25,000 attack Juliet in the back, there's just not a lot that the opponent can do. So we end the game with a pretty unique good boy inside of a wolf win, and yeah, there's probably all sorts of things that we can do to make this board even better, but it's just so much fun to see these kind of crazy comps turn into absolute monsters when you get the secret heroes. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see if I can find some videos as good as this to show you later. So anyway, bye.